we were talking to you about Milestone and Static. What music do you listen to when you draw?
Anything to do with like money.
Welcome back to DC Studios Showcase. I'm nerd commentator Frankey Smith.
I'm pop culture pundit Coy Jandro.
And here at DC Studios Showcase, we love to create a safe space to nerd out and talk all things DC. And today we have newly inducted into the Eisner Hall of Fame, comic artist, animator, illustrator, founder of Milestone Media, Denys Cowan.
I know his impact on me, and I can't even fathom. So I know I'm excited. I can't imagine where you're at right now.
I'm going to keep it together. I'm gonna keep it together, especially since he's drawing Nightwing, which is like, okay, at first I loved you for all of that stuff, but now you're a part of the hottest character out right now.
I am so excited to talk to this man.
I'm a longtime nerd, and I don't know how I'm gonna react to meeting the Denys Cowan.
Let's bring him out.
Well, we are here with comic and animation creator, illustrator, and founder of Milestone Media, Denys Cowan. It's such an honor. Welcome.
Well, it's good to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you both.
This is really
This is
cool for
cool.
us. Of all the people we've had in, we were like, we have to be cool today.
Yeah.
Denys Cowan is here. You're a legend. So tell me, what was your pop culture origin that inspired you to get into comic books?
I can tell you exactly what it was. I'm a kid. I'm 5 years old, 6 years old. I don't know how old I was. It was before I was 8. And I remember watching TV, black and white TV, black and white set that was in the kitchen or wherever we had it, or the living room. It was in the living room. Living in Queens, an apartment in Queens. And The Adventures of Superman would come on, right? The George Reeves black and white Adventures of Superman would come on. And I thought it was the best show I had ever seen in my whole life. So I'm watching this show, and I'm a little kid, and I'm thinking, how can I watch this show whenever I want? I'll draw it. So what I did was I would get some paper, like school paper, and make these boxes that were like television boxes. I thought they were television boxes. And I would line them up on a piece of paper, like 3 rows of 3. And I would draw the Superman adventure that I wanted to draw in the boxes.
So cool.
But they were all, I couldn't draw anything, so they were all stick figures with like a dude with an S on the cape, jumping off of buildings and doing all kinds of things that he could do. But that's literally what got me started. Like,
Wow.
I was trying to draw the Superman TV show.
That's beautiful.
And
You're
I-
storyboarding at
I was
6.
storyboarding, but I didn't know what it was. I was just making the pictures that I saw on the screen, you know, and that's kind of, this is literally how I started doing comic books when I was a little kid. Just copying off of TV and doing
crazy.
it not well, but
That's an incredible memory. That's so special.
yeah.
It's actually your art that got me into it. It was the Static with the hat on.
Oh,
It was like
wow.
that, and I'll never forget my dad seeing Hardware for the
Yes,
first time.
yes.
And he was like, he's so black. Like he's
Super
so
black. As blackety
dark
black.
and huge. And he was like Iron Man, but
But
smarter.
better, yeah.
And had the new, it was incredible.
We did all that stuff, Dwayne and I and Derek and all of us did all that stuff on purpose. You only have one shot. It's like the Eminem song, right? One shot. So we're just going to give everything. Interesting thing about Milestones, when I started it, it was during San Diego Comic-Con. I mean, it started before that, the idea, but during San Diego Comic-Con, like 91, I woke up like, I got to do this thing that I've been like talking about, but I got to do it. How am I going to do it? So I called up Michael Davis, and then I called up Dwayne McDuffie, and I called up my friends who were at the con, walked them around, early in the morning, just walked them around and said, pitching my idea. So Michael and I are like, we got to get Dwayne, because we need a writer, we can't write. So we called Dwayne, who grumpily meets me, listens to my idea, looks at me like I'm insane. And then he goes, and this is the thing I was going to bring up, then he goes, well, look, we'll do this. We can do this thing. He goes, but it can't be just about black people. Now, That was my whole thing. I'm like, we're gonna do black comic books for black people. It's gonna be blackity black, black. Maybe black paper. I don't know. And Dwayne was like, no, we can't do that. We can't do it like that. If it's gonna be Milestone, we didn't call it Milestone then. If it's gonna be something, we have to talk about all the marginalized people. We have to talk about everybody. Even then, he was talking about transgender people. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, that's what we're gonna talk about, because I do it so bad. Then that's what we're gonna do. But it was scary for me, all of it, you know. But that's what made it fun. That's what made it great, and that's when you're really pushing the envelope. Do something that terrifies you a little bit. Not something you're so supremely confident that everyone's gonna be dig. No, people may hate all this, but you got to do it, you know. So it was blackety black to get to the point, blacker than black hardware. But our mission was even bigger than that. So
How much did everything change when the show came out? I feel like that was such a...
when the
Static Shock on WB aired it, I feel like that... I mean, it got me back in the comic store in a different way.
It changed a lot, but at the time, it was different times. So I think it got us a bigger audience, a lot more people that I didn't even know, but they didn't necessarily go into comic book stores back then. And there was nothing tying them to go into comic book stores. Batman phenomenon did that.
Yeah.
But by the time Static came around, it wasn't quite like that. So we got a lot of positive feedback. We got a lot of things, but what we did not get was a toy line. And back then, in the early 2000s, you needed a toy line to finance the rest of your animation, and we just couldn't get it. We had a few things, but nothing really caught on. They weren't taking any chances on any black toys like that.
I was 12 or 13. I remember I was Batman, X-Men, Spider-Man. Like I was the trio, and then Static Shock made me realize how much more there was at the comic store.
Right.
So that comic got me to like go down another aisle. Like,
Right.
that was the first of like.
Right.
So I've always wondered how that affected. Do you still have people about my age or
Yes.
like in that range that come up and say like Static Shock changed how they?
You have
read
no
it?
idea. You know, you get regular fans, or not regular fans. You get people who love The Question. They love Nightwing. They love all that stuff, which is awesome. I love it. They like the Black Panthers that I did. They like whatever they liked. But then you get the people who grew up on Milestone and who saw Static when they were little kids, especially black people. I've had people start crying. I've gotten choked up from people. I've had parents who grew up watching Static bringing their little kids dressed as Static, you know? So the emotional connection with the Milestone characters, especially Static and all that stuff we did, is quite different. And the reactions I get is quite different and very emotional than the other stuff, you know, than the other comics I've done. You can always tell the Milestone people or people like that, because they'll come up and just start staring at you.
Like me when you walk
Or coming to the booth, just coming
you
to
walk
They look at you,
like,
and they won't
hi.
say anything. And you're like, hello?
For many of us, it's the first time we've read something that we can directly connect with.
Yeah.
And I think, to your point, it's because it's so diverse,
Yeah.
but it felt so human, right? Like, for them to get powers from police brutality, for when I look at the Blood Syndicate, I think of what it's like to live in New York, and just these characters felt like people I knew.
Yes.
And I was like, is
That was
this
the
how
whole
white
point.
people felt this whole time?
Yes.
Coy.
Yes, it is.
How does it feel when you read Green Arrow? You're looking at your face. You're like, well,
Every day. I was like, I haven't had those checks, Frankie. There's no
Well,
comments.
Spider-Man, I'm sure that's what
Oh, no, no.
Spider-Man feels like, right?
Yeah.
You're looking at Peter Parker and you're like, damn.
That's why I
He's
started
like
reading.
me.
Yeah, because you're a 2-year-old
But
going
we didn't have anything like that. Luke Cage was not like us.
No. You know,
Black Panther wasn't like us.
Black Panther was some king from some fake African
yeah.
country. And I'm like, this, Dakota is not, I heard, was supposed to be the Midwest, but
is.
it's my headcanon, like Gotham, that it's New York. And so it's like, I'm watching people in New York, like, get in a fight and then get powers and have to grapple with, like, how everyone would react to it, how the government would react to it.
Yes.
That's what we're seeing in the new Dakota.
Yes.
In the, such a long name, in the history of DC, the Dakota incident, you know, we're seeing that, and
I really
feels
love that
real.
book. I
Yeah,
love
of
the way it
course.
came out. I loved everything about it. I love the fact that it went to a second printing.
Yeah.
All of it.
It was so
I love seeing our characters. I mean, it's my stuff, you know, but I love seeing our characters interact with the Bronze Tiger and all that stuff. Jefferson Pierce. I'm like, this is great.
And it feels like they're saying what you said, right? Like they're pressing them. They're like, hey, why are you acting like this? Why are you not like us?
Right.
You're like, you look like us. And just watching those characters grapple with it, I'm like, this is what Black audience members have been asking these characters for a very long time. And they put it on the page. I can't believe it was very
Our
cool.
whole thing with that was like, how come Superman and Wonder Woman ain't never visited?
Yeah. When they put that, I said,
That one
How come
line.
they never even came here to do nothing for us? Nothing, not one thing. They don't even know we exist. Now they know we exist. It was a whole thing. But it
mind
was
you,
good.
Dakota is like a place you should be checking on.
Yes, yes.
That is-
All this stuff has happened, and you're just like, you know, going off doing universe-saving things, but you got stuff right here.
Yeah.
That was the whole point of that.
So in addition to all your incredible work in comics, I'm also a huge music person, and you've done so many incredible covers. I'd love to hear a little bit about how that came together in that transition.
I've done a few album covers and a few music-related projects, but the one that most people know is the Liquid Swords album cover that was done with the GZA. And I always think that every solo project from the Wu-Tang is really the Wu-Tang, right? It's like all of them, you know? So it's an interesting story because he came up. I'll tell you really quickly. I got a call out of the blue. Would you be interested in doing this cover? I have no idea how they found me or why they wanted me to do it. None. Except that I'd done a lot of comic books back then, and I hadn't started Milestone then. I don't know. It was just the timing was weird. I think I'd done The Question and some other stuff. Anyway, they asked me to do it. The GZA came to my office with his manager. I'll never forget this. And he came up and started describing the concept that he wanted for the album cover. Okay, sounds good. In the middle of it, I remember, I'm like, this is the Wu-Tang Clan. These are hardcore rappers. These are like, this is no joke. I was a big Public Enemy fan, not so much an NWA fan, love Wu-Tang, but not as much as Public Enemy, but I still love Wu-Tang, right? Anyway, so he's up in my office and he's talking about his concept. Yeah, I want to do this, I want to do that. Sweet guy. Gets a call in the middle of a thing from his mother. Hi, Mom. Hold on a second, it's my mom. Hi, Mom. Yeah, no, I'm up at, what's the name of your studio? I'm up at Denys Cowan's studio. Yeah, and we're doing this and we're doing that. I'll call you back. I'll call you back. I was done after that. I'm like, this dude took a call from his mother in the middle of a conversation. He's a hardcore rapper talking about his mom. That was over. So I did these preliminary sketches for him. And he was coming in the next week. So I did this stuff on these characters on a chessboard. I did these little rough pencil drawings, and I took a Pentel pen and just sketched over them. Sometimes I just took a Pentel pen and just drew it because I was just trying to show him the concepts that I wanted to do for the finished art. He comes in, looks at it, flips through the pages. Oh man, these are dope. These are dope. I said, okay, good. So when I start, he goes, no, start what? I said, when I start to do the real, he goes, no, now just use these.
With your concept art?
If you look at that album cover, if you get fortunate enough to get the CD,
Yeah.
and you open it up, and you actually look at the art hard, you will see construction lines, you will see mistakes, you'll see
think that's
all
you.
kinds of stuff
That's beautiful,
that had
man.
no business in being in any. And then like I did these character drawings of these hood-like dudes who just was wearing Wu-Tang gear and they had baggy, that's when everyone had baggy pants on and, you know, big baseball caps. Oh, we're gonna use that too. So he used that for the back cover. And I was just like, I actually got to draw the front cover, thank God. You know, but I always look at it like, man, if people could have seen what it really should have been. It was quite an experience. And then I also did the Prince comic book.
Yeah, I want to definitely talk about Prince because that's a
Prince comic
pretty.
book. That was done
unique-
by Dwayne McDuffie and I. We had just started Milestone, so we were doing like a lot of Milestone stuff. We had done Deathlock, Dwayne and I. We're basically a team. I think I just drove Dwayne crazy, to tell you the truth. But another time we get a call from DC Comics. The editor at the time was a guy named Andy Helfer. And he was the editor in charge of that project. And he called me saying that Prince is looking to do a comic book at Warner Brothers. But you have to submit an audition drawing to see if he likes your style, to see if you can. So I guess a bunch of artists did. And I did. you know, and I think I'd either already had done a picture of Prince or did one for that thing, but it was a Prince from the Graffiti Bridge. So he had long hair and he had like all this like Flower Child stuff on and jeans and stuff. Nothing like what he eventually looked like for the album. So I sent it in, and that's the one he picked.
Wow.
Of course.
That's the one he picked. So I was the artist on it. And I got my buddy Kent Williams to ink it. Dwayne wrote it, and we had a great time. But the best part about this whole story is this. At the end of it, I do the book, I hand it in, it's great. I mean, not that I did great, but it was great that we handed it in, it was done. Dwayne and I get a call at my studio at our Milestone. The call is from Prince's management. And they said, Prince is giving a concert in Midtown Manhattan for a bunch of underprivileged high school kids. Would you like to come? We're like, yes, but we get this call like literally an hour before the thing.
Wow.
So we jump up and we get in a taxi and we go. And I don't know, it was at some kind of small club. We get there, place is packed with kids, packed. Prince's people put us right in the front, so I guess we wouldn't be these old dudes with these kids. And I'm literally, Prince is right where that Batman statue is. And I'm right here. And I'm watching Prince for like at least an hour. Go through these songs and do a tape of video and do all this stuff and never mention it to the press at all. It was all for the kids.
That's so special.
Did you feel hypnosed?
Yes.
I heard, yeah.
Yeah, no, I was staring at him like I was in love. I can't even front like I was like acting like it was all right. I wasn't all right. I'm like, I wasn't dancing, I wasn't doing anything. I don't think I was, I think I was just staring. Like it was one of those out of body experiences. You turn around, there's kids behind you screaming, there's people filming, there's Prince, there's the band, there's the dancers, there's the chicks. And you're like, I can't believe I'm here. I just drew a comic book. And you just...
I heard that Michael Jackson and Prince had a rivalry. Did he reach out to you after?
Yeah, that would have been funny.
To be like, I want a comic book
I
too.
do my comic book and it's going to be better than Prince's. No,
He tried to buy Spider-Man to play him. He wanted to be Peter Parker, so he tried to buy the Spider-Man character. Michael Jackson
really?
tried to acquire to play.
He could.
He had the money then.
I could see that. I could see that.
Now, listening to music and being a part of music, there's such an interesting Ouroboros of creativity there.
Yes.
Do you listen to anything when you're drawing a certain type of characters versus another?
Yes. I listen to music all the time. It depends on the stage of drawing that I'm doing. If I'm doing breakdowns or layouts, which means you're just taking the script and now, okay, panel 1, this happens, panel 2, this happens, panel 3, this happens. Now I've got to draw, and I usually draw it comic book size. But I listen to music while I'm doing it, right? So music with words is okay, music is okay. If I'm penciling, I'm actually drawing the book, right? I've done all that thinking. I've done all the placement. I've done all that stuff. My assistant has taken it. He's given it back to me. Now I'm ready to work. I'll listen to music with words, for real. Or I'll listen to podcasts. Or I'll listen to audiobooks. Or I'll listen to anything like that just to just sitting there for hours, you know? God. And I'm not sitting there in silence. So, you know, a lot of times there'll be music, but a lot more times there'll be audiobooks. But it depends on what phase of the job I'm doing.
Sure.
I tie music into my comic book stuff so much because I've told this story before. When I was first getting into comics, I was 14 years old. And I'm going to High School of Art and Design in the city, you know, and I met a guy who knew Rich Buckler, who was a famous comic book artist. So I became that dude's best friend, and then he introduced me to that dude who introduced me to Rich Buckler. I ended up working for Rich when I was 14, right? He never paid me, because he ain't gonna pay a 14-year-old kid to do what? I wasn't even doing nothing. I was just going out, buying him cigarettes when he needed cigarettes, or going to the store, or cleaning up the studio, whatever I needed to do just to be around, comics. But what he would do is that he would pay me in albums.
Oh, wow.
Like the albums that he didn't want, or he had doubles of, or whatever. So I got Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run. I got Earth, Wind & Fire's Gratitude. I got all kinds of stuff that he just gave me. He wasn't gonna pay me, but he gave me these albums. So I would take these albums home, and I would put them on the turntable, and I didn't know what they were, but I just listened to them while I was working, because it was associated with Rich, and it was associated with comics. And this guy, so this stuff may be the magic key to get me to draw better. I don't know, you know.
No, those wavelengths, like the dopamine it hits, like the way we chemically react to music is alchemy, man.
So comics and music have always been tied to me, and I think that's where it started. You know, just me, just listening to Rich's albums, 14, bringing them home, trying to do my little samples.
Do you remember what you were listening to during the Question era?
That was in the 80s. So there was a lot of Prince. That was a Prince era. There was a lot of Prince in the 80s. And after Prince, it was Public Enemy, so it was a big jump.
That's a very different tones.
Big jump. But it was a lot of Prince, a lot of people like that, Jesse Johnson, you know, that kind of Andre Simone, all that Minneapolis sound kind of stuff. Some Michael Jackson, but more of that vibe. I was like heavy into it. Under the Cherry Moon, right? Graffiti Bridge, all that stuff. I was all in.
We were talking to you about Milestone and Static. What music do you listen to when you draw?
Anything to do with like money.
That's fair. That's
Any
fair.
songs that have to do with money. I'll put that on hoping it'll draw some money. You know, when you draw stuff and when you do stuff, there's a certain attitude that you take with different characters. For example, if you're drawing Batman, am I really going to be sitting at the drawing board with a big old smile on my face, eating, having some ice cream, drawing Batman as he's, unleashing havoc in Gotham City? No. For Static, literally when I'm drawing him, and I've drawn him in comics and I've drawn him, of course, for sketches for fans, in your mind, you have to smile. Because Static always brings the light into the room. He is not the dark character. He's not Batman. He ain't Green Lantern. He ain't none of that. He's the light. He's literally the light. So if he walks into a situation, he lights it up, right? So when I'm drawing, I'm literally thinking that. I'm thinking, just raise it up, just keep it fun, keep him engaging. So most of the time, if you see drawings that I've done of Static, he's always smiling.
Yeah.
He's always got like a look in his eye, like he's about to do something, did something, or about to say something, or in the middle of saying something, and that's what gives him his spark. So it's a long-winded.
No, that's a great answer. I wanted to go on that journey. I really love music's tie into what comics make me feel like, because it's always been kind of one-to-one to me, and that's why we were talking about RZA right before, and his influence from comics into the sounds he made. I feel like that really affected comics a decade later. Like, that was kind of a reflection of that. Yeah. And I feel like we're kind of going through that again now, where there's a musicality to comics, especially the creativity that's going on. Like, to me, Absolute has a sound to it.
Oh my God.
Like, there's so much energy that feels like music to me. And I think the Nightwing does too, for me. Like, Nightwing has this crazy...
Are you reading Nightwing?
Oh, I'm loving Nightwing, man.
Really?
Like Dan Waters is, I think, one of those writers that everyone that knows comics knows, and then he's a great gateway to new comic fans. And then your art is so supernatural but super heroic that I can get people that like either to dig it. Like, it's such a great middle. So I'm loving Nightwing.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
And that highway element, I've never thought of Blüdhaven as a human element until that. Because I think about how Hunter S. Thompson saw roads. He saw them as like the veins and tributaries of America.
Right.
And I'm feeling that with the highway of Nightwing.
With that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that connection, and like the art makes it also feel like this pump. Like, it's got like a rhythm to it. So when you're writing that book, I have this drum almost when I'm reading it. What's that feel like to find a supernatural element to a character that's not necessarily known for that?
Nightwing was a different thing for me, because when I got the assignment, I had to be honest with people. Like, I didn't know a lot about the character. Because, I don't know if you find this with other comic book artists or writers, in my case artists, I don't read a lot of comic books. I just don't. I look at the pictures, I'll see what's going on, but to sit there and read a comic book from beginning to end like it's fun.
It is fun.
It's fun for you, but for me, for you, it's fun. And if I look at older comic books like I was looking at when I was younger, that's fun. Even up till like the 1980s, Frank Miller's Daredevil and Walt Simonson Thor, all that stuff's fun. Everything after that, it's like work. It really is.
Is it because you associate it with work, or you?
It's because I associate with work. It's nothing to do. It's because I'm looking at it from a number of different things. Like, I know what the artist probably had to go through to draw it. I understand how many pages it is. I'm breaking it down like how I would have done it. I do all those normal things, and then I go into the hate part, which is can't stand this dude, he's so good. Why am I even looking at this book? I'm trying to draw this thing, or the writer's so, what kind of writing is this? Is so brilliant. Like, why does this great artist get to work with this great writer? And then I get all upset. So then I won't read the book. So there's another reason why I won't read it.
Who's a modern?
I didn't want to get upset, huh?
Who's a modern artist that you look at now and you're
All
like,
of them. Oh, they're so good.
Yeah.
All these new guys, man. Dan Mora.
We love Dan.
Right? Like, where does he come from? What planet
Yeah.
created a Dan Mora? There'll always be guys like that, though. Who's doing Batman?
Jorge Jimenez.
Yeah.
That's another dude.
You
Hold
said
on.
he's too
handsome.
Oh, no. He's not handsome. He's a beautiful dude.
He's really.
I'm up. Here's what happened. I'm at some convention. I forget where it was. I shouldn't even get into this. I forget where it was. But I'm looking at this good. I didn't even know who he was. But I had drawn a Batman book with him. I did Batman 150, and he did the other part, the good part. He's sitting there. There's a big long line, and he's like the best looking dude in the whole convention. I'm like, it's not fair. Not only can you draw like a dream, but you're like a model good looking, and you're a sweetheart of a guy.
The nicest guy ever.
The nicest guy ever. Too. There's Nicholas Draper Ivey, who I think is awesome, our static artist. Clayton Henry's great. There's a new guy in Batman, Matteo Scalera. The best thing for me, though, to keep my sanity is not to look at too much, because I will get intimidated.
Now, aside from drawing and listening to music, you're into animation. Are there any current animation projects that you're watching?
Not so much, really. I've been concentrating on my comics more than really looking at animation projects. I've been working on some animated projects that I can't talk about. But I haven't really watched a lot of them. I mean, of course, I did watch the Spider-Verse ones.
Did you love it?
Man.
I thought they were both brilliant. And I thought the second one was more brilliant than the first one. And the first one was brilliant. The first one has a place in my heart a little bit because they put me in it.
Where?
Right? There's a scene on a bus where, I don't know, I think it's probably he's scrolling through his phone. And you see a list of names. My name's on the phone.
Oh, that's special.
My name's on the phone. And I'm looking at the big screen. I'm looking at this going, that's me. And I was just like, and then later on, I ran into Peter Ramsey. And I asked him about that, and they did it. Everything's done on purpose, and they did it on purpose. He said, "Well, it's because we know you came from Static."
I was just about to say, some people may say,
everybody may say
that you inspired Miles.
Well, we did.
Yeah.
We did. I mean, down to everything. His little electric powers, whatever his attitude, his neighborhood.
Yeah.
We did all that, But did they rip us off?
No.
Not really. Any more than we ripped off Spider-Man, because we looked at Spider-Man for Static. We looked at Steve Ditko's Spider-Man.
Yeah, which comes from your question, which I love. I love that the question to me feels like this great connector of all things.
Yes. So,
but I think what's so different is your experience and the people that you work with are so very different that it will never be the same, even if you're inspired.
Right.
Down to what you're doing with Nightwing and Blüdhaven.
Right.
You mentioned that, Gotham has an identity and Blüdhaven doesn't. And to make that and be like, now I know what Blüdhaven looks like, I loved it.
Nightwing is one of those cases, I don't mind saying this, where I got the book. I didn't want to do it at first because I didn't know anything about the character and I couldn't figure out why would they want me to do this. But then, they were like, well, we like to work on the question. I'm like, that was 40 years ago. I don't draw like that anymore. I don't even think like that anymore. And we'd like to bring some of that to Nightwing, and we'll pay you. I'm like, you know what? I could think about the question and all the things that I did to make it a success. So, anyway, I took the assignment on, not really knowing anything about it. But here's what I didn't know, because again, if I knew, I probably wouldn't have done it for real. That it was such a popular, successful book. That everybody loved that book, especially girls. I had zero clue what I was getting myself into. None. So then I got the instructions. Well, his hair has to fall a certain way.
Yeah, his butt has to be big.
His butt has to be
Yeah.
right. His thighs have to be right now. make that stomach flat and make sure that nose is correct.
You get the
Like
thirsty
he's
notes.
Nightwing.
Week 2 is thirst notes, and then you can start.
My editor will send me stuff like, this is correct. See, you got this one right. I love this shot, you know? I'm like, oh, and like that butt shot. Like, it's like, for real. This stuff's for real. I never had to deal with that with a
the
comic.
girls love Nightwing.
Love him.
The question wasn't a heartthrob. I love the idea. They're like, well, now that I'm drawing a heartthrob.
So I had to get past that. And then I found out one of my best friends is a guy named Mike Stratford, who'll watch this and he'll be like, oh man, he mentioned me because he's one of my best friends. And I told him, like, man, they offered me Nightwing, you know? And I said, should I do it? And he gives me good advice. He goes, you should think about it. I mean, it's a good character. He's all laid back. You know, think about it, see what you want to do, blah, blah, blah. So I accept the assignment because that's a recommendation from him. So I go back to him. I say, well, okay, I'm doing Nightwing. He goes, oh, you're doing Nightwing? I said, yeah. He goes, oh, dog, that's one of the best books in comics. That's one of my favorite books. I mean, that writer who was on it, that guy was great. He says, and the artist, he says, you know, that was the best book ever. That was one of the best books DC did. I said, why didn't you say that when I said I was going to do it? He goes, oh, man, I don't know. I just didn't want you to, you know, feel a certain way. I'm like, now it's too late. So I had to really bring that A game.
And it did, man. I think it's really hard to follow that duo.
I had no idea.
Can I give my Nightwing hot take?
Yes.
I think he's going to be as prominent as Batman in about 50 years. Like, I think when you talk to kids 50 years
You think it'll take
from,
that long?
Yeah. Batman is... Scott, I think it was shorter and then Absolute dropped.
Yeah.
Scott brought Batman back.
Batman's back in such a big way right now. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's true.
But I think in 50 years, it's going to take one good movie.
Yeah.
And then...
One good Nightwing movie.
One good Nightwing movie.
One good Nightwing television series.
Yeah.
I'd love that.
Something good.
And then
he deserves it. He's a great character.
Yeah.
And he's been great for so many generations. He was great with
his
Robin.
Compassion, which is another thing I had to get, like, oh, he cares.
That's why we love him.
Yes. He cares about everything. He cares about the girl on the highway. He cares about the people he just beat up. He just cares.
He's like a perfect mixture of Superman and Batman.
Yeah, he's the thing that Batman can't be. Yeah. I like that he gets the things that is like, what if Batman could do this? Let's give it to Nightwing. Like, what if that money went into Blüdhaven and because of Gotham it can't? And I love that we get to experiment like that.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us. This is an honor. It's insane.
This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You guys are incredible. Invite me back one day 10 years from now.
We'll invite you on to talk the animated stuff, your tease that we can't hear about.
Yes.
I was like, you said 10 years.
I'm like animation next year, 2 years.
Right? Yes, I'll be happy to come back.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for all your work.
Thank you. You guys are great.
And our next segment is going to be DC Dispatch. I love this segment because I love hearing from you all. You can find us on Discord, YouTube. We pull questions from all over the place. Instagram comments, we are there. So this one is from Nightwing_Boy on our YouTube, but I recognize that name. I think he's commented on my videos as well. He asks us to talk about the recently concluded epic Tom Taylor, Bruno Redondo Nightwing run, which we even referenced with Denys. Denys knew the stakes were high because of this run. Let's talk about it.
I love a good detective story. I love the fact that he got his own place. You know what I mean? Like, I love Blüdhaven. I love how it really shows that Nightwing is that girl.
To me, that run is one of the most approachable runs. Like, if you aren't a comic person, or if, like, someone asks you, like, what should I read? I think that Nightwing run is a really great example of, like, look at this really beautiful, bright, vibrant artwork that has these great examples of movement and, like, the kineticness of the work. And then Tom Taylor's writing something that feels like it's answering a question people have had about Batman forever.
Yeah.
Not the movie, but Batman for a very long time. but Batman, but I think of Nightwing, and I said it to Denys, that Nightwing to me is a character that you can write the things that you couldn't write for Batman, and that's a compliment. Like, he's got stuff, like, you couldn't have Batman give away his billions to Gotham, because that doesn't work functionally, and we see with the Robert Pattinson movie what happened when they tried to do even a piece of that. Like, that money got laundered and it got turned to crime. I love the storyline of Blüdhaven getting this injection of money and the corruption of money in a brand new way.
Yeah.
Like, Alfred, spoilers for 10 years ago, dies. And that money goes to Dick Grayson, and he's like, I want to do what Bruce never could. And you see the inevitability of corruption with politics and with these things, but it's never a book that's judging anyone. Like, it's got something to say, but it's not like, you bad. And I that's such a good hero thing.
And I feel like it reads like a TV show. Like
Yeah.
when you're watching it, when you read the first issue, you're like, this is a pilot.
Yeah.
You know, this is a pilot episode. And to your point, I think it's a great thing to recommend. I love that it got the girls into DC.
There's so many girls are reading Nightwing.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
we all know why.
come on.
Because of his compassion.
His deep, deep heart. His big, big, swelling, wide heart.
Thank you all for joining us. This episode was insane. We got to laugh. We got to talk about music.
We got to almost cry.
We got to cry in spirit. Okay, I just said I was a thug. Why would you
It's
say
true.
that?
That's true.
I just-
Not to cry. There's a lot of songs about it.
There are.
whole
Not me. Not me. You can catch new episodes of DC Studio Showcase every other Friday on HBO Max, HBO Max's YouTube, and DC Official's YouTube. And you can listen to us anywhere you find podcasts.
And while you're on those pages, if they got a comment place, we'll be on them. Please leave us a comment on YouTube, leave us a comment on Spotify, which you can now do for some reason. Leave us a comment everywhere. And if you're still watching this deep in, post Denys Cowan, post ranting about Nightwing. You like the show, which means I'd love for you to rate us 5 stars. It really helps the algorithm gods, as do those comments. So please do all the engagement. It really, really does help.
Send those comments in. You could do it in the DC Discord as well. And you can also talk to us directly. You can find me everywhere at Fantastic Frankey, Frankey.
You can find me everywhere, unfortunately, at Coyjandreau, Coyjandreau.
And next week, we have comic book writers Jeremy Adams and Morgan Hampton coming in. We're talking all things Green Lantern, the comics.
It is Green Lantern season. How did Green Lantern start?
Yeah.
The comics.
So not the show, but we're going to have so much fun. It's going to be geeky, nerdy, fun. I cannot wait.
And we'll get to the show. But first, the comics.
Yes. And until then, we'll see you guys later.
This was an OBB sound production for HBO, hosted by Coyjandreau and Frankie Smith. Executive producer for HBO is Becky Rowe. Executive producers for DC Studios, Gary Barbosa and Philip Soponides. Executive producers for DC are Mike Pallotta and Victor Diaz. Executive producers for OBB are Michael D. Ratner, Scott Ratner, and Toby Lawless. Producer for HBO is Aaron Kelly. Producer for OBB is Toby Lawless. Research producer, Sam Harrison. Production manager, Kevin Lynn. Associate producer, Sam Harrison. Talent booker, Aaron Bandler. Editor, Adam Grabarnik. Post-production supervisor, Mariana Chrysostomo. Assistant editor, Mark Alcacid. Production accountant, Bobby Hanna. And Zachary Steinberg. Digital content producer, David Jimenez. Director of photography, Keith Gresham. Production designer, Liz Klikowski. Art director, Michelle Hall. Sound mixer and editor, Josh Falcon. On-set mixer, Darren Bowling. Hair and makeup, Kendall Shannon. Production assistant, Terry Kraft. Senior Director, Creative Development and Social Strategy, Lenore Castro. Manager, Creative Development and Social Strategy, Sharif Bakari. Special thanks to graphics and artwork by HBO Max Concept and Design Studio. Special thanks to illustrations by Ariel Cologne.